Here's the hard truth. Most people don't hit their goals. Not because they're lazy or unmotivated, but because their brains are scattered, distracted, and overwhelmed. But what if you could unfuck your brain and actually make stuff happen this year? Let's break it down. Picture this. It's January 1st, and you're hyped because this year, you've promised yourself everything's going to change. Maybe it's finally starting that side hustle, launching your own business, or leveling up your fitness game. But instead, hours go by, and you're still stuck in a rabbit hole of YouTube videos, barely making a dent in your plans. Sounds familiar? Yeah, same. You're not alone in this. For most of us, the new year feels like a big reset button. It's called the fresh start effect, a psychological thing that makes us feel like January 1st gives us a clean slate. But here's the catch. Motivation fades. It's great to start strong, but what really matters is how long you can keep going when that initial hype wears off. You've probably been there, sitting at your desk, staring at your laptop, full of ambition but unsure where to start. You keep consuming content, how-tos, productivity hacks, whatever, but all that information overload just leaves you stuck. The more you watch or read, the less you actually do. That's cognitive overload messing with your focus. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose, you just end up soaking wet and overwhelmed. You've heard it a million times. Focus is everything. But what exactly is focus? It's not some magical superpower. It's just giving your full attention to one thing at a time. The problem is, our generation is living in a world where our attention is constantly pulled in every direction. Phones, social media, Netflix, everything is competing for our brain power. Here's why this matters. Our brains evolved to deal with the chaos of survival, not a world filled with notifications and memes. Every time you switch tasks, like checking your phone mid-assignment, your brain takes a hit. It's called a switch cost, meaning it takes a few seconds to refocus every time you shift. Do this enough, and it adds up, leaving you feeling busy but with nothing to show for it. And let's be real, we're all a little addicted to distractions. You're not hooked on your phone, you're addicted to the mini dopamine hits you get from each notification, text, or meme. Dopamine's the same chemical that kicks in when you're rewarded. Every time you check your phone or scroll through social media, you get a little hit of it, and your brain loves that. But the more your brain gets used to these easy hits, the harder it becomes to focus on anything long-term. This constant need for stimulation is why it's so tough to buckle down and work on something for hours. The real issue isn't just distractions. It's that we've trained our brains to crave them. And the more we give in, the more our attention span shrinks. We've gotten used to short bursts of gratification, which makes it harder to grind through the longer, harder work that actually matters. Here's a challenge for you. Turn off your phone and put it in another room for 24 hours. Trust me, you'll notice just how much you crave distractions. Once you realize how addicted you are to the noise, you can start breaking the habit. One way to tackle this is with a 30-day plan. Break your day into 30-minute blocks and track what you do during each one. After a month, you'll have real data on how much time you're wasting on stuff that doesn't matter. Then cut out the crap and focus on what's important. Sounds simple, right? But it's all about accountability. A lot of people don't even know what they want out of life, which is why they stay stuck. You might have all this energy to do something big, but no real direction. That's what I call the anti-zone, the place where you want to get things done, but you're paralyzed by not knowing where to start. You might bounce from one idea to another, or just not do anything at all because you don't have a clear plan. It's a frustrating place to be, and it's where most people spend their lives. They either never find their path, or they waste time chasing the wrong thing. And before you know it, you're looking back with regret. The anti-zone is basically a state of mental limbo. To get out, you need clarity on what you really want. The opposite of the anti-zone is the zone, also known as flow. If you've ever been totally locked in on something, whether it's gaming, creating, or working out, you've been in flow. It's that state where time disappears and everything else fades away. According to a study from the 80s, being in flow is actually one of the happiest states a human can experience. It's where you're fully focused, making progress, and feeling good. Athletes, top entrepreneurs, and creatives all know this zone. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was the one who really dove into this concept. Flow happens when you have clear goals, immediate feedback, and the right amount of challenge. Too easy, you're bored; too hard, you're frustrated. Get it just right, and you're in the zone. Getting into flow isn't as complicated as you think. It all starts with knowing what you want. Forget about overthinking it. Sit down, get real with yourself, and figure out what drives you. Then, break it down into smaller, doable steps. Once you know what you're aiming for, you can start working toward it every day. That's how you build momentum and stay in flow. It's not just about setting goals, it's about aligning your actions with your intentions. Overcomplicating things just makes you freeze. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, where you get stuck because you're afraid of making the wrong choice. Instead of trying to map out your entire future, simplify things. Focus on one step at a time. Each small action builds on the next, keeping you in the zone and moving forward. Here's something most people overlook. Your brain's performance is directly tied to what you put in your body. You can't expect your brain to function at its best if you're fueling it with junk food and bad habits. Think of your brain like a high-performance engine. If you give it crappy fuel, it's going to run slow and sputter. Ever tried to study after a night of bad sleep, or tried to concentrate after eating a heavy meal? Your brain feels foggy, right? That's because what you eat affects how your brain works. Eating tons of processed junk or skipping meals can mess with your focus, memory, and energy levels. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's energy, so if you're not feeding it right, you're not thinking right. To really get the most out of your brain, you need to focus on the right foods. Omega-3s, found in fish and flax seeds, help your brain stay sharp and flexible. Vitamins like B12 and folate are key for producing serotonin, the chemical that keeps you happy and balanced. And don't forget about hydration. Your brain's mostly water, so even being a little dehydrated can make your thinking fuzzy. Start small. Swap out refined sugars for complex carbs that give you steady energy, like oats or whole grains. Add more leafy greens, nuts, and healthy fats into your diet. Over time, you'll notice the difference. Your brain will feel clearer, and focusing will come more naturally. If you want to crush your goals, you've got to start by fixing what's going on in your brain. Get rid of distractions, figure out what you really want, and fuel your body with the right stuff. It's not about making massive changes overnight. It's about building better habits day by day. Think of it as decluttering your mental space. Turn off the noise, focus on what matters, and take care of your brain. It won't always be easy, but with a clear, unfucked mind, you'll be in a much better place to go after what you want. Start with small steps, and before you know it, you'll be unstoppable. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to figure it all out at once. But by clearing distractions, knowing your direction, and fueling your brain, you can start moving toward the life you want. Each small win adds up, and before you know it, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. By implementing these strategies, you won't just unfuck your brain, you'll be positioning yourself to create the life you've always desired. What are you waiting for? Get started today.